for you who is out there looking for a brand new fantasy book recommendation. These are going to be short, sharp, and to the point so that you can find your next book that you're going to add to your top 10 list. Today I'm going to recommend to you the Mage Trilogy by McClellan, and he just happens to be a student of Brandon Sanderson himself. The series itself kicks off with the Promise of Blood, followed by the Crimson Campaign, and concludes with the Autumn Republic. And you are immediately thrust onto a continent on the verge of industrialization with a blend of magic and gunpowder weaponry. We start by following Field Marshal Tamas, an accomplished powder mage and the leader of a coup against the monarch. The corruption, the slavery, and the spilled blood of the common man must change, and Tamas will kill kings to bring it. To ensure the success of his coup, he has ordered the assassination of all of the members of the Cabal, all of whom utter the same cryptic message as they are killed: you cannot break Krasimir's promise. The Promise of Blood follows the POV of three central characters. The first is Field Marshal Tamas, who is the gruff leader of the rebellion in his 60s and an accomplished commander of warfare. Next you have Adamant, who is employed by Tamas and a detective who is tasked with uncovering the mysterious, final and foreboding words of the now dead leaders of Adro. And finally we have Taniel Two-Shot, an accomplished powder mage and the son of Tamas. Taniel and his mute companion Capol are two of my favorite characters in this series, and their dynamic and arc makes for such a fantastic read. There is a war and revolution coming, and each of these POVs is going to have a vital role to play in the coming story. There's also a range of side characters that all bring their own value to the story as well. One of which is Olam, who is a knack in the employ of Tamas. Their dynamic and banter is very hard not to love. But for me, it's the magic system that is the absolute strength of this series. There are three magic systems that are introduced in the Promise of Blood, and the first of which is the simplest of them, and that is of the knack. The knack stand out as the most widespread of the magical abilities in the Powder Mage, but it is barely seen as magical when compared to the other two of the systems. The knack are incredibly common throughout the population and excel in one very specific area, while they remain completely ordinary human beings otherwise. Unlike the other magic systems, the knack unlock their abilities with minimal effort and follow far less rules. For example, Olam is a character in the series who has the ability to never need to sleep. And Adamant is another Nax who has a near perfect memory. The next magic system in the power rankings is that of the powder mages. They can sense gunpowder at a distance, and they gain their abilities by ingesting gunpowder, primarily through the means of snorting the stuff. This enhances their perception and their physical abilities, and also allows them to float bullets and give them an extra push in the right direction. They also possess the ability to ignite and redirect explosions from gunpowder, which makes for some awesome scenes when powder mages walk into rooms with guns filled with powder. Finally, the privilege of the most traditional of the magic systems in this series. They are rare and very powerful, and they are mostly found in the Cabal that Tamas is trying to take down. They have the ability to wield fireballs, throw boulders, and call lightning from the skies and launch it from their fingertips. The privilege draw their power from their else. They do this through their right hand and then redirect and manipulate that power with their left hand. In order to do this, they wear special gloves that are covered in runes. It reminds me a lot of Full Metal Alchemist and how Colonel Mustang uses his ability to throw fire around. You definitely don't need it, but if you are interested in the French Revolution and Napoleon, you are definitely going to scratch that itch and then some in this book. It's one of the few flintlock fantasy series that I've come across, and it makes for such a fantastic and refreshing read. And if that's not your cup of tea and you are not into flintlock fantasy or the French Revolution and Napoleon, ignore everything I've just said and read this series, because it will definitely become your cup of tea after you've finished. The story itself is filled with political intrigue. The revolution and the industrial age is here, and the leadership and governance become so important to the future of Adro. The combat is gritty and very, very violent. The battles are epic, and they are laced with strategy and maneuvering. The characters face a lot of moral dilemmas, and the exploration of the impact on the soldiers and the civilians in the aftermath of this revolution is really, really fleshed out. You can't go wrong with the Powder Mage Trilogy. It has an incredibly unique magic system, it's got awesome characters and really refreshing world building, all tied up in a really, really satisfying ending. Definitely check out the Powder Mage Trilogy, the first book, The Promise of Blood by McClellan. It is definitely worth your time. Let me know if there's a series that you're thinking of checking out but you'd love a recommendation for. Otherwise, happy reading, and I'll catch you in the next one.